Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Carrying on with Kitab al-Tahara. We had taken different categories of water and we spoke about Tahur, Tahir and Najis. Inshallah, today we'll be speaking about Ahkamul Abar. Bi'r is a well. So Ba, Hamza and Ra. Singular Bi'r. And the plural is Abar, wells. So in the olden days, you find that most of the people, even up to today, especially in the villages and that, they have wells. They didn't have running water, they didn't have tap water, etc. And that's one of the ni'am and bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us. The fact that you don't have to go to the river or the lake in most countries to get water. You just open the tap and water is there. That's why you find they spoke a lot about the masail of the well. So number one, they tell you that the well water, as we took before, is clean, ma'un tahur, as long as the properties are met, properties of water. Thereafter, if some sort of najasa falls into this well, okay, and usually in those days, because they had a lot of animals around, and at times the well may not have been covered or closed, it would have been open. So they give you all these masail. So they start off by telling you well water is clean. Then they tell you that there's certain najasat that may fall into this well. Does it make the well clean? Does it make the well impure, or does it remain clean? So first is they tell you about the droppings meaning the stool of camels and sheep. And some of the scholars in the Hanafi method also mention cows, i.e. bahimatul an'am, that which you can eat. So they say if there's droppings from a camel or a goat or sheep or a cow that's fallen into the well, then this well, the water in it remains pure, remains clean. And they say also any droppings from a bird, for example, a pigeon or a sparrow, etc. If that had to fall into the well remains clean. Then they mention to you this side mas'ala in the Hanafi madhab. They say, according to the Imam, the urine of these animals, meaning the urine of those animals that you can eat, is najis, according to him. Okay? So if the urine of a sheep or a camel or a cow, because it's najis, i.e. if it had to go into the well would become najis. And later on they tell you how to cleanse it. Why do they mention this? Because in some of the other madhahib, they say ma'kulul lahm, whatever you're able to eat, okay, in terms of sheep, camels, goats, cows, etc. The urine and stool of those animals is also clean. And they use the hadith of the Uraniyin. There were some people who came to Medina at the time of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they couldn't find cure for their sickness. So Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told them to go towards the camels of Sadaqah and to drink from the urine and the milk. So that's why, because of that hadith, some say it's clean. So the Hanafi madhab, in this particular point, they tell you, even though there's difference in the madhab, they tell you that according to Imam Abu Hanifa, the urine of these animals is also najis, also dirty. Hence, a person is not allowed to drink it. Then they tell you, in this well, you may find some animals that fall in, and so two categories. First is, if you've got an animal that falls in and this animal is still alive and you don't know of any najasa on it and it comes out, okay, then the well remains clean. Okay, as long as this animal, it itself got no najasa on it, the well remains clean. So for example, if you've got a sheep and this sheep had to fall into the well and a person rescued it, took it out straight away, it didn't have any najasa on it, the water is still considered to be clean. Thereafter, they tell you that at times an animal may fall into the well and this animal dies in the well. Okay? This animal dies in the well. Then they say, how do you cleanse the well? Firstly, you have to take out the animal, okay? Take out the animal. Secondly, you look at its size. So they say whatever is the size of a mouse or a rat, etc., anything that size, if it's fallen into the well, died in the well, you take it out, and you also cleanse it by taking out 20 buckets of water from that well. Let's say you got a well like this, mouse fell inside and died. You took out that mouse, bearing in mind that this mouse hasn't bloated. It's not into different pieces. It's still intact. Let's say it fell in and after an hour or two it died. Someone came and they took it out. Then you take out that mouse as well as 20 buckets, and that's how it's cleaned. And when you look in the Hanafi books here, they'll tell you that even though this goes against qiyas, if you had to compare and you had to use logic, you would say the fact that this animal died in the well and this najasa, it would have spread to the wall of the well, to the bucket of the well, etc. They say, no, here we're following the athar, whatever has been recorded from the Sahaba and the Tabi'un, etc. So they tell you a rat and its equivalent, you take out 20 to 30 buckets, 20 compulsory, but they say 20 to 30 mini mustahab, as well as the animal. Then they tell you something a little bit bigger than that, a cat, for example, or a pigeon, meaning a big pigeon. Here you would take out 40 buckets. Okay, so let's say a cat fell into the well. This cat died, you took it out immediately. It hasn't yet bloated or anything. It hasn't been staying in the well for 2-3 days. No, you've taken it out and you take out 40 buckets with it, compulsory. They say 40 to 60. Then they tell you that which is bigger than that. So a sheep and its equivalent. So for example, a sheep, a dog, a pig, a human being, etc. Here they tell you that you have to take out all the water from the well in order to cleanse it. And this is bearing in mind it died. We're not talking about them being alive. So if, for example, a cow had to fall into the well, let's say it's quite a big, meaning a big well with an opening, fell into the well and it died. Okay, you take out the cow because it's the death of that animal. You take it out and you would take out all the water in that well. Then they tell you that if in case you've got a well that you can't take out all the water. How is that possible? Sometimes you've got a spring, so the water is coming from underground and that's what's filling the well. So every time you take out, more water is going to come. Every time you take out, there's more water going to come. So here they say you take out 200 to 300 buckets of water if it's this animal here. So let's say you have to take out all the water and this well carries on giving more water. So here you would take out 200 to 300 buckets of water. Generally, the lower figure they tell you is compulsory. The higher figure is mustahab. The higher figure is mustahab. Then they tell you if these animals, any one of them, big or small, had to fall in the well, it died in the well, and it bloated, or it got cut up into pieces. So, for example, you've got, let's say you've got a cat. However, that cat, let's say somebody cut the legs and the hands and then threw it in. Because the blood would have gone into the water, they say you take out all the water, regardless of how big or small that animal is. So that they're telling you, if it falls into the well or is thrown into the well and it dies and it's either bloated, meaning it's been in there for a long time, or its organs and body parts have detached, then here they tell you to take out all the water from the well. And the same ruling here, if you can't take out all because the water carries on coming, you would take out 200 to 300 buckets of water. Did you understand? That's why we're going step by step. You took what was pure, tahur, tahir, najis, and then now you're taking masail which were common at the time. They tell, and I'm sure they'll tell you later on how to cleanse the water. Here they're telling you the well how to cleanse it. You take out water. Do you understood? Omar, can I ask you a question?
Yes, yes.
Right. Let's say in the village, you've got a well and you've got children who jump in there to swim. Okay, 10 years old. And one child is drowning and they manage to rescue him. Okay, is the water in that well clean or not clean?
It's clean. It's clean, Sheikh.
Ibrahim, what do you say? Oh, Ibrahim said he wasn't able to. Saeed?
I think as long as there's no najis on him, then it's...
As long as there's no najasa. So if that child jumped in,
exactly.
for example, and you find a lot of the times, especially, that's why they say the public swimming pools are considered, I wouldn't say najis, but considered unhygienic. Because everybody, well, a lot of people just urinate, etc. in there. So here we're talking about the well. If the children had to urinate in the well, and after that, they had to come out, even if the child came out alive, you would say that there's najasa in that well. This is according to the Hanafi madhab. According to the Maliki madhab, which speaks about taghyir. Taghyir is the change. So they're only looking if the water's changed, either its color, or its smell, or its taste. If it hasn't changed, it's still clean. I want to ask you a question. Omar.
Sheikh, can you repeat the last part? In Hanafi
Which last
Madhab, according to information. What
According,
just said.
according to the Hanafi madhab, if it's najasa that falls in the well becomes impure, then they tell you later on how to clean it. So here we've taken how to clean the well if something dies in it. Okay, and told you according to the size of the animal. What happens if it's not a living thing that dies in the well? What if it's urine or stool, etc.? They'll tell you, inshallah, tomorrow meeting. Any questions? I hope you understood. You need to revise and you need to go through all the masail, and inshallah I'm going to test you. Then we're going to come to the end of Kitab al-Tahara, inshallah, in the next maybe 2 weeks. So you're going to take water, you're going to take tayammum, you're going to take wiping over the socks, then you're going to take hayd and izalatul najasa. And generally, as I mentioned before, the masail are the same. The opinions differ from madhab to madhab. At times they in conformity and at times they differ. Any other question? Or can we move on to Arabic? Oh, today you got revision Arabic. Yalla, Omar. Let me ask you. Did you revise the first 3 modules or you didn't?
I didn't.
Huh?
I didn't check.
Yes. I said if
You
you
can
guys
ask
don't
me.
revise today, tomorrow, Ibrahim said he can't talk. Saeed, did you revise?
I did try to revise as much as I can.
Saida, did you revise?
Yes, I did revise.
You revised. Okay, I'm going to ask you. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام.
كيف حالك?
بخير الحمد لله وكيف حالك أنت؟
No, I'm a man, so كيف حالك? A woman ki, man ka. بخير والحمد لله. ما اسمك؟
اسمي سيدة معراج.
من أين أنت؟
أنا من الهند.
من هذا? Tell me that this is my father and he is a doctor.
هذا ولدي وهو
Father. Waladi is a son and walidi, you put waw alif. Walidi is father.
هذا
Repeat.
والدي وهو طبيب.
They tell me that this is your mother and she is a teacher. ومن هذه? Say this is my mother Fatima and she is a teacher.
هذه والدتي فاطمة وهي مدرسة.
طيب. What's a house and what's an apartment?
بيت is house and apartment is شقة.
Shaqqa. Okay. Tell me that I live in the airport district.
أسكن في حي المطار.
Well done. What are the days of the week? Arabic and English.
السبت Saturday and الأحد Sunday. الاثنين Monday. الثلاثاء Tuesday. الأربعاء Wednesday. الخمسين Thursday. الجمعة
خميس ها؟ خميس.
الخميس Thursday.
Yeah.
الجمعة Friday.
Friday. Well done. علم غير. Others, did you revise or you didn't revise? Whoever's on book one. Omar, Ibrahim, revise properly. I'm going to ask you tomorrow. Inshallah. علم غير.
Yes, Sheikh.
Did you revise your book?
I did my book revision and I had a little bit of book one.
Ask Omar from the first 3 modules. Ask him a few questions.
Assalamu alaikum, أخي إبراهيم. أخي إبراهيم أو عمر. أخي عمر. كيف حالك أنت؟
وعليكم السلام. بخير والحمد لله.
ماذا تفعل؟
أي ماذا تفعل؟
هل قرأت القرآن؟
هل راجعت الدرس? You go over the lesson? Allah, stop. You need to revise. Look, there's no point in us sitting here for hours on end, going through all this. If you don't revise, you'll forget. And you are all at a disadvantage because you are not living in an Arabic environment. So it's not like when you go to the shop or here or there, you have to speak in Arabic. You speak in English or your own languages. So here, this is your time to practice, and at home is also your time to revise. Just a little bit of time. And you'll thank Allah after 1-2 years where you're able to understand and speak in Arabic. You're able to go understand the Quran as well as other books, especially if you want to go further. There's a new name in the class. I don't know how to pronounce Ola or Ola. If you want to participate, you can lift your hand or switch on your mic. If not, no problem, you can follow. يلا عالم غير. التراكيب النحوية. This is book Arabic, book 1B. Here they're giving you some grammatical structure. saying تبادل السؤال والجواب مع زميلك كما في المثال. Exchange question and answer with your mate, with your friend, as in the example. So can you see? I'm sure we took this. كم عيدا في الإسلام. What I want you to notice is after كم, the word has 2 fathas. كم عيدا في الإسلام, and then he says في الإسلام عيدان. Okay? And you answered this. غرفتان No, you didn't answer this. كم سريرا في الغرفة؟ على غير.
في الغرفة سريران.
كم طبيبا في المستشفى؟
في المستشفى طبيبان.
أحسن. كم كتابا في الحقيبة؟
في الحقيبة كتابان.
كم معلما في الصف؟
في الصف معلمان.
So here can you see they're teaching you how to say dual. So in Arabic you've got singular, you've got dual, which is a special word just for 2 people, and then you've got plural, which is anything more than 2. كم مهندسا في الشركة؟
في الشركة مهندسان.
كم فرنا في المطبخ؟
في المطبخ فرنان.
أحسنت. Right, look here. Al-Mithal. So here they're teaching you how to ask a question. And you're going to ask, when you're asking one person who's a man, you say, أين ستقضي? Okay. Here, because it's more than one person, you're asking a group of people. Can you see? أين ستقضون عطلة الصيف? Where are you going to spend the summer holidays? So they want you to ask all these questions. يلا عالم غير.
One question, Sheikh, this you is a plural you?
Plural, yes, it's a verb. Well, the only thing with this book, they should have had the grammatical rules and then taken you into the exercise. Here, what they're doing is they're just giving you vocab and sentences, and you're just learning with trial and error. And after that, eventually they tell you how to make these structures when you're one person, two people, more than two people, etc. So for now, you can learn it like that. Inshallah, we'll take Nahu. Carry on.
أين ستقضون عطلة الصيف? Where will you spend your holidays? يقرأ الكتاب. أين ستقرؤون الكتب؟ أين ستقرؤون الكتب? Where are you going to read the books?
Next.
أين ستغسلون الملابس? Shall I translate or shall I continue?
Carry on.
أين ستشربون القهوة؟
تشربونها.
ستشربون.
Yeah, you said ستشربون. ستشربون.
أين ستشربون القهوة؟ أين ستصومون رمضان؟ أين ستدرسون اللغة العربية؟ أين ستقابلون الطبيب؟
You see, well done. Then here, they're telling you, again, question and answer, all to get you used to it. لماذا نسافر إلى مصر? Person is asking, why are we traveling to Egypt? And they've given you the reason here. So they're saying, نسافر إلى مصر. Now, yara means he. So they want you to say we. So you put a noon instead of the ya. So نسافر إلى مصر li nara. This lam with a kasra li means like because or so that we can. So that we can see the river Nile. نسافر إلى مصر لنرى نهر النيل. Right, I'm going to ask you. لماذا نسافر إلى المدينة؟
نسافر إلى المدينة لنزور المسجد النبوي.
Well done. لماذا نسافر إلى مكة؟
نسافر إلى مكة.
Change that ya.
أداء العمرة.
No, how it is, they want you to use the verb. So can you see here? Nara was originally yara. What did they do? They added a lam, li yara, then they moved the ya and they put a nun, li nara. Same here. Ya'tamiru. Take out the ya and put a nun. Na'tamiru. Then give the reason, we'll put a lam. Li na'tamiru.
لنعتمر. نسافر إلى مكة لنعتمر.
نعتمر. You'll learn why. Carry on. لماذا نسافر إلى السعودية؟
نسافر إلى السعودية لندرس الإسلام.
أحسنت. لماذا نسافر إلى العاصمة؟
نسافر إلى العاصمة لنحضر الأثاث.
لنحضره.
لنحضر.
لا، لنحضر الأثاث. Well done.
لنحضر الأثاث.
Yeah, so can you see slowly they getting you into sarf. Sarf is like a scale where you weigh the words. Weigh them with what? The weight is with fatha, kasra, dhamma. So can you see here? First one here, you had a fatha on top of the ya, yazuru. On this one, you have a dhamma on top of the ya. So if you put a noon, it's also going to have a dhamma. So yuhdiru will be nuhdiru. Understand? لماذا نسافر إلى إثيوبيا؟
نسافر إلى أثيوبيا لنقضي العطلة.
Well done. لماذا نسافر إلى جدة؟
نسافر إلى جدة لنقابل الأهل.
Well done. Then here they're asking you, when is this? And you have to say it's after this. متى عيد الفطر؟
بعد شهر رمضان.
متى عيد الأضحى؟
بعد شهر ذي القعدة.
متى الإفطار؟
بعد آذان المغرب.
متى العطلة؟
بعد 3 أشهر.
متى العشاء؟
العشاء بعد صلاة العشاء.
عشاء. عشاء. متى الدراسة؟
الدراسة بعد أسبوع.
متى طواف الوداع؟
بعد طواف الإفاضة.
متى زكاة الفطر؟
بعد شهر رمضان.
متى الوقوف بعرفة؟
بعد شروق الشمس.
Excellent. Well done. Halim, I see you asking if book 1 is finished. Did you revise or you didn't revise?
Sheikh, I just got my laptop back this afternoon, so I hadn't
You
been
didn't
able
manage to revise.
Yeah, no, I
Khalas.
didn't.
The others didn't revise, only Sayyida revised, so I told them that. And funny enough, I told them on Friday, I said, if you don't revise, I'll ask you Tuesday. If you don't revise, Thursday. If you don't revise, Wednesday, Friday, then I'll stop teaching. Book 1, I'll stop. So you better revise. And I remember when we were in Medina, our Sheikh, especially the last 2-3 years, it happened a lot more because the students were new students. They were younger kids. I mean, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, like that. And he used to ask questions in the dars, and we used to have what was called muraja'ah. So he used to teach us fiqh and hadith, sometimes teach us fara'id or tawheed or nahu. Then after that, he used to spend a good 10 to 15 minutes asking us on revision. And he would ask what we took in the dars a few days ago, a few weeks ago, a few months ago, and he would tell us what he would be testing us on. And there came a point where a few times some of the students were not revising. They couldn't answer. Then he said, we'll stop revision. He said, I won't ask you. And then he said, right, after they still weren't learning, he said, okay, now we're stopping dars. And he stopped for a while. And then after that, they started studying again. Then he started teaching us again. So you guys, mashallah, much older. I know you're busy and that, but just even 5 minutes before the lesson, come at 5 to 8. And worst comes to worst, after we've started the lesson, revise. And those 5 minutes make a difference. They add up throughout the year. If you revise 5 minutes every day, 300 days in the year, for example, you've got 1,500 minutes. Divide by 60, you're getting about a good 20-30 hours for nothing, something you revised. So that's extremely important. I know it's early, but I think I want to move on to reading. Any questions that you guys have? Any questions with what we took? Usually we finish at 9 o'clock. Today we finish half an hour early. Sayyida?
I have a doubt. Like, if I were to say, like, in my apartment are 5 rooms, so can I say fi shaqqati?
Yeah, fi
Adding
shaqqati means in my apartment. You're adding the ya, that's a belonging word. It shows belonging.
and
Fi
also
shaqqati.
if I'm okay, yeah.
And if? Finish.
He is my elder brother, so can I say Haza akhi kabiru, like that.
أخي الأكبر. هذا أخي هو أكبر مني. See?
Sheikh, can we go a bit further till the long passages, and then? Oh yeah, okay.
In,
Just start there.
in your
Yeah,
book, but you were absent on Friday.
Yeah. Yes.
So looking for you to read. I'm going to ask you in fiqh. I've taught you so far. It's been how many months? Few months. We've been over zakah. Zakah we went over properly. We went over Hajj quickly at the time of Hajj. Did we go over Siyam or we didn't?
No Siyam.
Briefly we went over, no?
No, Sheikh, we didn't do Siyam.
No, Sheikh.
Tahara. Now Tahara. Then after that is Salah. After that, you would have taken, bi'idhnillah, if we finish Salah as well as fasting. If you can finish before next Ramadan, then at least you would have taken ibadat. And then after that, we move on to money matters, inshallah. Omar, you had a question?
No, Sheikh.
no, this was me. I raised my hand, Sheikh.
Tell me.
When we see a sentence like "fi matbakhi furnu," would that mean like in the kitchen there's an oven?
Yeah, في المطبخ فرن. In the kitchen, there is an oven.
Okay, so there's no specific word to indicate the words "there is."
Remember, you're translating into English, so
Yes.
it's the context. You can't translate word for word. You can't translate word for word.
All right. And Sheikh Ibrahim and me, we did revise though, but I don't think Sheikh Ibrahim is able to talk now. But yeah.
Alam Ghair, let me ask you a question.
Sheikh.
If a person has a bottle of water, okay? Bottle of water, small bottle. And they had to, let's say there's some sort of najasa inside, okay? After that, they went to purify the water. Let's say they put it through a filter, okay? Small bottle, 300 milliliters. And after that, the water comes out clean and clear. What's the ruling on that water? Huh?
So the water has been cleaned, you saying, or filtered?
Yeah.
A filter mean the new water, which is like filter, is clean. It's tahur. I would say
It's
tahirun fi
ma'un
nafsi.
qalil, that was najis.
Okay, so it was not filter. You're saying that, okay.
It was najis, little glass like this, and then you put into a filter.
Yeah.
And then it came out clean.
But we have to see how much was was it al-ma'ul qalilun or al-ma'ul kathirun? Was it 5 by 5?
Ask you another question. Ask you another question. If somebody has najasa on their clothes, okay, and they send this piece of clothing to the dry cleaner. Now, bear in mind, when you dry clean, you don't wash with water. No dry cleaner washes with water. They have like a special way of washing, a special liquid. Does that garment become clean or not? Bearing in mind they didn't use water.
Sheikh, I don't know whether cleaning with water is a prerequisite. I don't know the fatwa about this, but
Omar?
It should be clean.
According to the Hanafi madhab, it's clean. According to the others who say that you have to wash with water, they tell you built on that asl that they have. If you went to the dry cleaner of najasa, your clothes won't be clean. Some go as far as saying at the laundry, your clothes won't be clean. The Hanafi madhab says no, you remove najasa from the clothing with whatever, water or anything that's similar to water. The others, like the Hanbali madhab, they're very strict in terms of water. So you use water to remove najasa. If you use anything else, it doesn't become clean. So you must bear that in mind. Right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Carrying on where we left off, I'm sure we stopped here. My book had closed. His speeches. When he, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, gave his sermons, his eyes would become red, his voice would become loud, and he would become angry, as if he were warning an army. He, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, started all of his sermons with praising Allah. The topics of his sermons revolved around praising Allah and glorifying his attributes. He, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, discussed the teachings of Islam, mentioning heaven and hell and things that bring about Allah's pleasure and wrath. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said he, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, used to discuss matters relevant to the listeners. And this is an important point. He says he, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, used to discuss matters relevant to the listeners. Sometimes he, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, would lengthen his sermons, and other times he would shorten them according to the people's needs. And this you learn. Maybe tomorrow you become an imam, a masjid, you become a da'iyah, etc. There's different people, different categories of people, different age groups of people, people in different communities, different environments, and they are all different. The way you're going to address a child is going to be different to the way you're going to address somebody who's already a grandparent. The topics that you choose, tomorrow you're giving a Jumu'ah or you're called to do a lecture, etc. The topics would differ slightly. At times, you may have the mixed, you may have everybody mixed. So here you have to look at what's the best thing to speak about, the best way to conduct yourself, etc. That's why in some of the hadith, you find the Messenger ﷺ is asked a question, which is the best deed? And he gives an answer, and then another hadith he gives a different answer, another hadith he gives a different answer. And some of the ulama, they mentioned this was at times according to the person who was asking the question. So sometimes he knew that this person, the best deed for him is this, this, and this. And this person, the best deed for him, or what he can do better is this, this, and this. And he would answer accordingly. And from there you learn that even when dealing with people, etc., it's not a one size fits all. As for his dealings with people, he, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, was the best in dealing with people. He, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, used to buy, sell, and enter into business partnerships. And again, this is an aspect not really spoken about in today's time. The interactions and the transactions of the Messenger, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And because of that, you find that there's people who associate Islam only to Salah, Zakah, fasting, and Hajj. More than that, they don't. However, if we taught them different ahkam, as well as different ahadith, etc., you would find that they would get the idea that Islam is a complete religion. It says, once when a previous partner in business came to visit him, the man asked, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, asked him, did you recognize me? The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam responded, weren't you my partner? You were a good partner. Neither did you conceal, nor did you used to argue excessively. Let's see the takhrij of that, Abu Dawood. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam also gave gifts and accepted them. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam borrowed money and property and purchased goods with deferred forms of payment. Alam Gheer, what's the ruling on taking a loan or taking on debt?
The ruling, it should be, first of all, it should be written down like a...
No, there's a person, let's say tomorrow, you want to open a business and you go to take on a debt of £1 million. Allowed or not allowed?
It's allowed, as long as I'm
bearing in mind there's no riba
I have intention to give it back. And yeah,
well, let's say you've already got a car, but you want to go and buy the latest car. So let's say you've got a car worth £10,000 and you want to go and buy a car worth £500,000. Are you allowed to take a loan on that or not? Islamic loan.
I think if it's for
It's only for the fact that he wants the latest car, nothing else.
I think it will be discouraged, highly discouraged to take
Discouraged. A fair answer. Ask you another question. When a person dies, okay, what do we do with the inheritance? Let's say a person died and he left 10 million behind. What are the first steps that we take with regards to this wealth?
The first step should be to find out how much he owes to other people.
No, so we look, according to the majority of the scholars, you would take any money that's needed for his burial from that money. So let's say, for example, 10 million, and you needed 10,000 to buy the grave and kafan and coffin and you first take that from there. So if a person died, for example, Omar, the person has 25 children. He has 10 children and 20 grandchildren. And he died with $10,000. And they all extremely, extremely poor. Okay? After he dies, look in his safe or his cupboard, he's only got $10,000. And the cost of his kafan is $10,000. Kafan and burial, etc. Do we look at the children and grandchildren to say they're very poor, we must give them? Or do we use the 10,000 for his burial?
We'll use it for his burial.
What if, okay, what if the children took that 10,000 and there's no more money left for burial? What do we do with this body? They took it, they don't want to give it. You've got a dead man there.
It's the responsibility of the children.
They don't want to. They tell you, Imam of the masjid, they told you that there's so and so, he's passed away, his children have taken the money, his body is lying in his house for 3 days, nobody's done anything. Is it your duty to raise money or to get money and in order to bury this person or not? His children have deserted him, they've gone.
It's my duty. Huh? If they don't want to help.
Yeah, so
what I think is
between the majority, between the Jumhur and the Hanafi madhab tell you that burial, etc., is upon the Muslim community. As for the others, they'll say take money from him first. After that, you look at duyun. You look at the debts. There's two types of debts. They say ad-duyun al-muta'alliqa bi'ayn al-tarika. Duyun, which duyun meaning debts, which are directly connected to what he has left behind. What do they mean? Let's say, for example, he left a building. Okay, this building is worth $1 million. Let's say, for example, let's say I died. Before I died, I borrowed $1 million from Alam Gheer, and I borrowed $1 million from Umar. Okay, how much do I owe? 2 million. I've got a building worth 1 million. When I borrowed from Umar, I told him, take that as a rahan, take that as collateral. If anything happens to me, you take my building. Here, we will say that Umar, he has first preference in order to pay off his debt because what I've left behind has been tied down to a debt directly. So you see? And then after that, if nothing remains, Alam Gheer, he won't get anything. And obviously then they mention later on who has to pay, etc., if they can't pay, etc. So that's the first thing. You look at duyun al-muta'alliqa bi'ayn al-tarika. Then they say you've got duyun, which are normal debts, also divided into two categories. You've got those which are for human beings, so you borrowed from somebody and you owe them money, or those which are outstanding for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a person had to give kafara, a person had to give fidya, zakah, etc. Then you look at wasiyah, if he's left any will in place. Saeed, Saeed? With that?
Yes, Sheikh, yes.
Let's say a person has two children. One is obedient and the other completely disobedient. He left his father, hasn't spoken to him for the last 20 years. Is the father allowed to write in his will that give all my wealth to my obedient son? As for the one who's disobedient, don't give him anything. Is the father allowed to do that or not?
I think even the disobedient child has a right to inheritance.
Okay. Let's say two children, okay? A person leaves $1 million, left two sons, only two sons, they each going to inherit $500,000 and $500,000, okay? One's obedient, one's disobedient. That's according to the inheritance. So this father says, hold on a second. My obedient son is already going to get $500,000 from the inheritance. Let me write him in my will to say that they must give him another 300,000 also. So 300,000 he must take through my will, and then the other half he'll take from inheritance. Is that allowed or not allowed?
Oof.
Huh?
I wouldn't actually know. I wouldn't know.
Alamgir?
Sheikh, it's not allowed, I think.
Why is not allowed? Halim?
Sheikh,
Equal
if I heard
distribution.
correctly, you said that he gives the 500,000 he takes from inheritance, the other 300,000 he gives to him, right?
Yeah, so let's say, for example, because you go in order, you first look if there's, after all the debt, you then look for any wasiyah, any will. So let's say he's left $1 million, and in his will he wrote, give my obedient son 400,000, and then the remaining was 600,000 to distribute, and then this obedient son already took 400,000 from the will, and then he's going to take half of 600,000, so he's going to take another 300,000. So he's going to come out with 700,000 total. Disobedient son is going to come out with 300,000. Is that allowed or not allowed?
I think it would be allowed.
Here you can't think. Either you know or you don't know.
Okay,
Sheikh, it's not allowed.
Based on what I've heard before, that you can give a third of your wealth away.
Look,
Then
the
I would say,
Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, La wasiyata liwarith. Anyone who's meant to inherit, you cannot include him in the will. Okay? The person is meant to inherit, you can't include them in the will. So that's the first condition. When you're looking at a person's will, he shouldn't have written his will in favor of, meaning monetary wise, in favor of somebody who's already inheriting, number one. Number two, they say it shouldn't be more than a third. الثلث والثلث كثير. Okay? However, let's say a person did do that, okay? Let's say a person wrote one of his sons in the will, and the son was already going to inherit him. If the others around him who are also inheriting allow it, they say ijazatul waratha. If they allow it, then it's permissible because it was their right and they've left their right. And similarly, if it's more than a third. However, a person should keep his wasiyah a third or less than a third, and he should try to be just with all his family members. And inshallah, you'll go through these masail. I'm hoping to go through these masail in fara'id. This is a mas'ala that every single one of us will go through in life. Every single one of us will go through in life, whether you had money or you didn't have money. When you don't have money, they're going to ask who inherits, where are we going to get this person's burial money, etc., etc., etc. from. So people will have to know. Muhammad says at the end of the time, towards the end of time, people will look for somebody to divide a mas'ala in inheritance, and they won't find anybody. And it's the first knowledge to be removed from this ummah. And what's the last piece of knowledge to be removed from this ummah, Halim?
I think the Quran, or those if I'm
Last
if
ibadah.
So Afwan Sheikh.
Last, yeah, the last piece of knowledge or last ibadah or last practice from this ummah. What is it?
I'm not sure.
Look it up and tell us tomorrow.
Okay.
No one else knows the answer. Yalla, carrying on. It says here, sallallahu.
I have a question.
Yeah, tell me.
After the reading.
Okay, afterwards. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam also gave gifts and accepted them. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam borrowed money and property and purchased goods with deferred forms of payment. Whenever he sallallahu alayhi wasallam borrowed money, he would pay back more than he sallallahu alayhi wasallam borrowed. And when someone would pay him back a loan that he sallallahu alayhi wasallam had borrowed from him, he would pray for him, saying, "May Allah bless your family and wealth. The reward for giving someone a loan is praise and to pay him back." Saeed, I want to ask you a question. It says here, whenever he sallallahu alayhi wasallam borrowed money, he would pay back more than he borrowed. Isn't that interest? Saeed? He borrowed 100, for example, and he's paying back 110. Isn't that interest?
I think it is.
By saying the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam did it.
A tricky one.
Huh?
A tricky one, this, yeah.
Alabrir?
I think Sheikh, one can give more with like without like being forced, like can give more. Or second,
without being forced and without it having been agreed on.
Yes.
So for example, if I gave you 100 and you gave me 110 back, and you say, you know what, just keep that 10. I never force you. I didn't specify it in the conditions for you to give extra. It's from your own goodwill. You said, you know what, I'll give another 110. It's okay. And similarly, it works the other way. If I gave you 100 and now you want to pay, you've only got 90, and I take that 90 and I say, okay, I've forgiven you the 10. But in the first instance where you're paying extra, it shouldn't have been agreed upon. Understood? The moment it's agreed upon, its interest. Okay, ask you another question. Alamgir. Let's say, oh, but you're married. Who's not married? Omar? Married or not married? I got a question for you, that's why.
I'm not married yet.
Not married, excellent. Let's say you want to get married and you want to borrow money from me. Okay? So I tell you, you know what, Omar? Here's my car. Take it. I'm selling it to you for 50,000. Pay me over the space of 1 year. Okay? And then after you've taken my car, I say, you know what? I've got no other cars left in my driveway. I need a car. I tell you, Omar, let me buy this car back from you for 40,000. You're going to pay me 50,000 after a year, but I'm buying it from you now for 40,000. What's the ruling on
that? You can buy it, but I have to pay all the
50,000
I owe you.
Allowed or not allowed?
It's allowed. It's a different transaction.
Saeed, allowed or not allowed? Saeed? Alamgir? See, these are
it depends, Sheikh. It depends. It depends, but it could be allowed. It could be allowed because it's like Umar mentioned. It is now it's a different transaction. The core ownership has been already given.
Saida, is allowed or not allowed? It's not allowed. It's called mas'alatul ina. Ina is where the product has been disguised. The product is a front. In actual fact, if you had to remove that product, what have I done? I've given you 40,000 now and I told you pay me back in a year 50,000. That product wasn't intended. It's called mas'alatul ina. Ain, ya, nun, and ta. And then you've got masail in tawarruq that, for example, a lot of the banks, etc. use. Inshallah, you take those masail. Carrying on. You see how we got there from this paying extra in a loan. He, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, dedicated a piece of land, waqf, endowment, and he owned a source of charity for the poor. Because this time I'm going to ask you again, Saeed, what's waqf?
Waqf is the money that is given for charity for the building of a madrasa or a masjid or that kind of initiative.
Is waqf the money or is waqf the masjid? What exactly is waqf?
I thought it's the money that's invested in those.
Alam Ghair?
A piece of land or property.
Better definition, Omar.
Your property you gave as a gift in the cause of Allah.
What if it's not a property? What if someone's giving a book? Halim?
Yeah, that's also.
Arfwan, Sheikh.
What's the definition of waqf? What's a waqf?
I understand the concept, but the definition would be something that the community benefits from, a continuous benefit.
Let's say a person wants to make his farm waqf for his children only. He says nobody else except my children can eat from there. It's allowed or not allowed?
Based on my understanding, it wouldn't be allowed. Because waqf, I think, is a community. Is like it.
Sayyidah, do you have an answer? No answer. Ola or Ula, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. You have an answer? Waqf? Yalla, look here. Waqf, the definition is تحبيس الأصل وتسبيل الثمرة وتسبيل المنفعة. Waqf is where you've got an asset. Okay? This asset, as you mentioned, it's habs. The word habs is for it to be trapped, meaning you've put this as an endowment, and whatever fruit metaphorically, whatever goodness comes from it, that will be donated. So then they give you an example. You can only do it with an asset that remains. So if you want to give somebody a loaf of bread, or you want to give somebody food as waqf, you can't do it because one of the conditions of waqf is this asset has to remain. Okay, so you can imagine it with a building, a car, masjid, etc. So you've got this asset that's more than likely going to remain, and it's now been given. Whatever the waqif, the one doing the waqf, whatever he intends it for, okay? Sometimes you could give the asset itself. So you can say, I've made this block of flats as a waqf for any refugee, for example. So here the flat itself is a waqf, those 10 flats, for example. Anybody who's a refugee, they come and they live in the waqf. That's one way of doing it. You benefit from the asset directly. The other way, whatever the asset generates in terms of revenue, you can say that from there, I've given it as waqf for the masjid, for example. Okay? So for example, let's say you've got flats and you've put them on, flats meaning apartments, and you've put them on rent. And after that, each month you're getting 10,000, 20,000, whatever it may be. It's at the end of the year, you got 120,000. If you've intended that everything that comes from these flats will be waqf and it will be spent towards students of knowledge, then that 120,000 in terms of money will go to students of knowledge. A person can make a masjid as a waqf. A person can give a book as a waqf. So it says this waqf, this book I've made waqf for masjid or for the library, etc. Even if it comes to even as little as a glass, you know, a drinking glass, you say this has been made waqf for the masjid, you put in the masjid. A chair in the masjid, an asset, people benefit from it, waqf for the masjid. And wherever you may be, try your best to have some sort of waqf in your life, because it's extremely beneficial. So that's in short is a waqf, where you've got assets. And generally, in today's terms, these assets are generating income, and then this income is being used in different places that's been stipulated by the waqif. It says, Prophet Sallallahu one second, at the end, Prophet ﷺ interceded for others in worldly affairs and asked others to intercede for him. He ﷺ did not get angry when Barira, a freed slave, radiallahu anha, rejected his request for her to return to her husband. What was the name of the husband of Barira? Omar? Allah, you tell us tomorrow. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam swore by Allah in more than 80 incidents, and Allah ordered him to swear in 3 incidents. Sometimes he would act upon his oath, and sometimes he sallallahu alayhi wasallam decided that it would be better for him not to act upon it and provide expiation. You see, all this comes in ayman wa nudur, taking oaths, etc. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam would joke with others, but he always spoke the truth. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam sometimes would race others and even wrestle with them. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam served his family members, carried materials for building the masjid, and he sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to host his guests and sometimes would be a guest at the houses of others. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said he sallallahu alayhi wasallam visited ill people, attended funerals, answered invitations, and looked after the needs of widows and poor people. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam enjoyed poetry and rewarded poets in return. Visiting the ill, he sallallahu alayhi wasallam visited sick friends who fell ill. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam once visited a Jewish servant of his who was ill and visited his non-believing uncle. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam offered Islam to both of them. The servant embraced Islam, but his uncle did not. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said he sallallahu alayhi wasallam would draw close to the sick person, sit close to his head and ask about his condition. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to wipe with his right hand over him and used to pray, "O Allah, the Lord of people, take away the harm and cure. You are the healer. There is no cure but your cure, a cure that does not leave any illness." As for Sunan al-Fitrah, actions related to the natural disposition of man, he sallallahu alayhi wasallam would start with his right side while wearing his shoes, combing his hair, performing ablution, and giving and taking. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam used his right hand for eating, drinking, and ablution, and his left hand was for answering the call of nature and removing harmful objects. As for cutting his hair, I want to see how there's still a few more pages. As for cutting his hair, he sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to either shave it all off or let it all grow. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam did not shave parts of it and leave other parts unshaven. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to like using the siwak while fasting or not, after waking up from sleep, during wudu, before prayer, and when entering his house. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam applied perfume abundantly and never refused perfume when offered to him. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam liked combing his hair. Sometimes he would comb his own hair, and sometimes he would let Aisha radiallahu anha comb his hair for him. Muslims ought to take the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and his companions as role models instead of actors, actresses, Western figures, and thinkers. Inshallah, we'll stop there.